Hello. Ah, it's quite funny. I've just put my camera on and it comes on like a 5 second countdown. And it wasn't that bright in here. It was before. And so I angled the camera. I've moved the laptop to angle the camera around so that I'm not being blinded by the lights. And then as soon as the camera came on, onto the countdown, and then it went to like 3, 2, 1, and I was like, oh my God, I can't see a thing. So, and also I was like just chuckling to myself a little bit because I never normally would do like more than one take. But because I've been like so quiet and I find it really hard to switch the camera on and then just start like chatting. This is my third take. Now, don't get me wrong, the first take I knew within like 30 seconds that it was a disaster. And so I just carried on chatting to myself just to loosen my facial muscles a little bit. And then the second take was, again, from the second I switched it on, I knew it was a disaster, and so I switched it off immediately and put it onto a third. But interestingly, what crossed my mind was how rare it is for me to ever, like, quote unquote, get ready and do a video. Because if I was to, like, try and get ready for a video and try and look perfect or say everything perfectly, it never works. Like, and so the reason why I'm mentioning it now is nothing to do with me. I was thinking how when you're living in the media spotlight, I can see why they get so appearance orientated, and I can see why it must be a really insecure life. I mean, look at the light now. If I was like on proper TV, then it would be an issue, wouldn't it? And like things like lines and like showing expression in your face. In the like world stereotype, they want everyone to be like blank slates, don't they? Where you're not having wrinkles. And when I did the basis interviews with Miles, part of what I hated about them was how giggly I came across. Especially because it's so inappropriate to talk about stuff like that and giggle. It's actually a nervous reaction, which is probably why I didn't like the fact that I was giggling so much. Because it can be misinterpreted as someone just being really jolly, when the reality is that in this kind of field of life, you are brought up to laugh in the face of adversity. Because it's like, laugh or what, cry all the time? You know, it sounds like very matter of fact what I just said, but that's your choices. You don't really have a choice actually, because you're a child and you get conditioned to be as you are. I hear myself say some of these things and it puts chills down my spine and makes my heart feel like really, you know, makes you feel a bit dirty, I suppose, when you think how kids get conditioned to be and they don't even really realise it's because you're a kid. You know, and then you find yourself an adult and all of this stuff doesn't add up or make sense, because if things were truly this paradise like you've kind of been taught to see, sorry, I've got a picture of my granny there looking right back at me and she caught my attention. I always feel like I'm doing this for her. I know it sounds crazy, as I'm not, I'm doing it for me, but when I did the basis interviews, I felt very much like I was doing that for my granny, and I wore a necklace and bracelet in that, which are my grandmother's, or were my grandmother's. And so when I just caught her eye then looking back at me, yeah, you know, so when I started talking out this time around, meaning in 2013, I definitely felt like I was doing that for her. It's always felt that way for the basis interviews. Not really so much since, until just then. Oh, tears. So this is my intro, which I'll put at the start of the upload for the first walk, my flying solo walk. And yeah, let's dedicate it to my granny, because she ended up with agoraphobia and like a prisoner in her own home in the end. Now, bear in mind, when I say this, nope, she wasn't a cowering mess. Nope, you could have called around to see her and you never would have known any of these things. But she did end up with agoraphobia. She didn't like leaving her house. Now, when you live in a mansion with huge gardens, then you can live like that and people don't know. She used to go to the supermarket when I was a kid and then she stopped doing that too. So I've always felt like speaking out for me has actually been more than just speaking out for me. And I say that not just in the generalistic sense, where I know there's loads of people like me out in the world, but from a very personal sense, knowing that if my granny had been alive in my time, I genuinely think she would have spoken. I think that she was, you know, she was living, she had three, she was born in 1918, I think, or 1914, I'm sorry, 1914, I mean. That's when she was born, and it was a different time, wasn't it? You know, women couldn't live the ways which they do now. Women couldn't speak out in the ways which they can now. And I've got the same name as my granny, and I've always felt like, why am I going on about my grandmother? Was never the intention. But anyway, I want this flying solo walk and this introduction for this walk to be dedicated to my grandma. I think that she'd be really proud. Like, and you know, I'm not saying that she wasn't like really implicated in certain things, but what people become and what people were are often two totally different things. And I really genuinely feel as though when you're in your 30s, you have this like these amazing chances where it's never easy to break free from your programming, and it's never easy to do the steps. Now, on one hand it is, because getting free is in steps, but you do reach a point where you've reached your maximum freedom potential without starting to take a few more steps which are a bit more dramatic. And whilst everything happens very organically, and on one hand looks easy if you talk about it, I've realised actually as I get older how hard a lot of these seemingly soundingly simple steps are to take, because there's a lot of like emotional, deeply bonded reasons within why it's actually can seem easier to stay in awkward, difficult scenarios than it is to leave. Now, I haven't got children, and it's been hard. I can see, I've always had beyond words respect for mothers with children who still manage to break free from the systems in place, because I don't have that. I don't have children which I'm consciously bringing up in my day-to-day life. I actually do think I have got kids. I do, but none which I've consciously had, none which I know about. I do feel like as though it would be very weird to have been used to the degrees which have been used, and for there to be no kids as a side effect. But I also have felt pregnant a few times in life when I shouldn't know what feeling pregnant feels like. So I do think that there probably has been some children which I've mothered, but you know, obviously there's a massive difference between being used for covert stuff, like unconsciously, or in alters which you don't yet know, and having in your conscious everyday life children. I would have loved to have had kids. That isn't the point which I'm trying to make. The ultimate respect which I've ever had is for women who have got children and can take on board their programming and still keep healing and still deprogram and removing the children from the scenarios of abuse, because it's so much easier for people to go into denial and stay trapped. Because when you've got children being used, like Britney Spears, I hate using a famous example, she might not even still be alive for all I know, as the person she once was. She might not even be a real person for all I know. Like, I'm just using her as an example for what we've seen. We saw someone try and get free, and we saw their children be used to keep them trapped. And that's why I've got ultimate respect for women who manage to break free and smash through that, and for the children they're doing it. Because a lot of women will stay in the most entrapping scenarios to protect their kids. But really, the true protection comes in breaking free and taking your kids, and or breaking free. It's not easy. And it's taken me 38 years not to recognise the mothering thing. I've always thought that. To recognise how it's not that easy actually to just walk away. To really see how they try and, like, if not try and kill you, they try to make you think they want to kill you. Or they try and make you suicide yourself, which is why I always say to people, I would never do that. Anyone who knows me knows I would never, ever commit suicide. It'd be very difficult, I think, now for these, like, for any cult plans to suicide me, because I've been very outspoken about the fact I would never commit suicide. And I'm not so daft to not, like, leave my own, what do I want to call it, a web? I don't know. I leave my own stuff out there. So if things like that did happen to me, I've written down and posted on publicly online, statements like that. Because cringeworthy as it is to do, sometimes you have to counter move to stop that happening. And I would never commit suicide. I've been through the darkest of dark many times over, and I would never do it. They're messing with my camera. Something just like happened online. Very strange. It makes me want to press stop and start again. I mean, not start again, just stop and start. Maybe I'll leave it. It'll be okay, maybe. We only really need the volume to work, don't we? It doesn't really matter if we can't see me. And I'm almost wrapping this up now because it's just meant to be an intro. It's not meant to be like a big, like, epic thing. I was going to post this walk on Sunday, but because so much stuff's been happening, I haven't had a chance to even, I never had a chance even to edit it together until yesterday. And I'm dying to go for another walk. And so I've got to get this walk up, because otherwise I'll feel like a bit bogged down in like stuff to upload. And also, I did want to just say, like, part of the reason why I haven't uploaded this yet or done the intro yet is because so much has happened. And I found out over the weekend that my ex-fiance, who I was with for almost all my 20s, who I've known since I was about 14, known in a kind of sense since 16, and I was programmed to be with him. It got sparked, ironically, after we'd been to watch the Blair Witch Project, and I gave him a peck on the lips, and everything stopped. My head stopped inside, and then it felt like a clock realigning, and then everything changed. And when it all changed, you could like align it. You could like think of it like a computer program now, like just stopping and reprogramming. But I always use the clock analogy because that's what felt true to me at the time. It was relatable to me. What's more relatable to the world now is the computer program analogy, and it all like stopping and my head reprogramming. And I knew in that instant that I was going to be with him, and there was nothing I could do to change it. Or that's what I thought at the time. The computer's acting like it's got a delay on me. I should have maybe stopped it before. It's thrown me off what I was saying anyway, and I'm running out of time, which is also a bit pressurising. I'm going to go for a walk today, and I'm going to film a second walk. But yeah, I found out that he's up in Crown Court in December for charges of rape and assault. Because I can't see how a rape is not rape and assault. Because to me the act of rape is assault, right? Anyway, this is the kind of thing which goes on in the background all the time. All these mad things go on in the background all the time. Sorry, I was just like thinking how they're like meant to push you, aren't they? You know, all this stuff's like going on always in the background, and it's not always able to talk about these things. But I've got no reason to keep like that kind of thing, you know. At the end of the day, he's up in court for charges of rape, which in my mind is an assault. Now, I'm not saying he's guilty or not guilty, but I know I walked away very damaged from my time with him. But I also know he was very damaged. He's Colin's bloodline. However, he was adopted out. But the fact of the matter is he is Colin's bloodline. I'm out of time. I'll film my walk today, and I'll upload this walk now. If you're watching this on my second channel, then you'll have to watch it on my first. You'll have to watch the main walk on my first channel. If you're watching this on my first channel, you'll have to watch the main walk on my second channel, and I'm totally out of time. I'll post all the links below. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.